Hello everyone, myself Falguni. Welcome to our channel. Today we will continue our session with the lesson 4, the Rattrap from book Flamingo. Rattrap यानी कि trap makes to catch the rat. About the author, the lesson has been written by Selma Lagerlöf, 1858 to 1940, was a Swedish writer whose stories have been translated into many languages. So the writer was well known, that's why books or stories have been translated in many languages. So here a universal theme runs through all them, a belief that the essential goodness in a human being can be awakened through understanding and love. The basic thing or theme of the lesson is essential goodness in human being. You can easily awake by love and understanding. Sometimes humans realize their mistakes and refrain from those dishonesty way to redeem themselves. The story is set amidst in the mines of Sweden, rich in iron ore, which figure large in the history and legend of that country. The story is told somewhat in the manner of fairy tale. So here the way of telling of the story compared with the fairy tale. So let's see the theme of Selma Lagerlöf. Once upon a time there was a man who went around selling small rat traps of wire. So once the person sell small rat traps, the traps to catch rats, and it's made from wire. He made himself at odd moments यानी कि free time. From the material he got by bagging in the stores or at the big farms. So here there is an indirect pointing towards the person, and the person wasn't in good condition. That's why even he made that rat traps from bagging things, and he used that raw material which he got from stores and big farm. But even so, the business was not specially profitable. He did all this hard work, but the business was not going good. So he had to resort to both begging and petty thievery to keep body and soul together. So when he hadn't any option, so he had to do both things. First begging and petty thievery. Petty यानी कि like minor. To keep body and soul together यानी कि to survive. Even so, his clothes were in rags, his cheeks were sunken, and hunger gleamed in his eyes. Still his clothes is rags यानी कि bad, not properly dressed up or washable clothes. Her cheeks were sunken यानी कि lowered, and hunger gleamed in his eyes. Gleam यानी कि sown. So one can also see his face, and that his face was completely like hungry man who hasn't got proper food to eat. No one can imagine how sad and monotonous life can appear to such a vagabond. So narrator says that no one can even imagine that how sad यानी कि gloomy and monotonous, boring life one person vagabond यानी कि also that person, that rat trapper who pods along the road. Pods यानी कि walk heavily. Left to his own meditations. Here not that proper meditation or yoga. Here his own meditation यानी कि his own thinking. He was just going from the road. But one day this man had fallen into line of thought which really seemed to him entertaining. Whenever he passed from the road area, he was in his own meditation. I think you got that what is meditation here for that young man or for that rat trapper. And one day when he was doing the same, suddenly one thought lined up in his mind, and it's really seemed to entertaining for him. He had naturally been thinking of his rat traps when suddenly he was struck by the idea that the whole world about him, whole world with its lands and seas, its cities and villages was nothing but a big rat trap. Suddenly some Brahmagyan type he remembered, and he thought that whole world, like lands, seas, cities, villages, it was just nothing, it's all like rat traps. Now, he was a rat trapper, he made rat traps, so his whole world, he compared this world with rat traps. How? Let's see. It had never existed for any other purpose than to see baits for people. It offered riches and joys, shelter and food, heat and clothing, exactly as the rat trap offered cheese and pork, and as soon as anyone let himself be tempted to touch and bait, it closed in on him, and then everything came to an end. What was that rat trapper thought? He thought that how he compared the rat trap and world together. Let's see. It had never existed for any other purpose than to set baits for people. Baits यानी कि food placed on a hook to trap a rat. It offered riches and joys, shelter and food, heat and clothing, exactly as the rat trap offered cheese and pork. Here he said that as we offered cheese and pork to rat to catch them in that rat traps, same thing. In this, human have also that riches, joy, shelter, food, which attract them to survive or live here nicely. As soon as anyone let himself be tempted to touch and bait, it closed to it on him. यानी कि जब भी कोई यहाँ पे सबसे अट्रैक्ट होके आ जाता है तो वो क्या करता है? इट क्लोज ऑन इट, उसमें खुद को बंद कर देता है. Then everything came to an end. Then at last there is the end of everything. So here it's a thought of the person, the rat trapper. It's not thought of the narrator. It's just the story the narrator presented here. So next one. The world had, of course, never been very kind of him, so it gave him unwanted joy to think ill of it in this way. His thought was like this. The reason was that this world never been kind with him. Never been kind with him यानी कि always people are not ready to talk with him nicely. After he was a rat trapper, and no normal people has time to discuss with him. So it gave him unwanted joy to think ill of it this way. That's why his thinking was like this, okay? Like all the world is like rat trap. We have tempting thing like that joy, riches, shelter, food and all this, and finally we trap it once day and there is the end of the life. It became a cherished pastime of him. Cherished यानी कि to love or to protect. Pastime of his during many daring ploddings to think of people he knew who had let themselves be caught in the dangerous snare, and of others who were still circling around the bed. So it's his way of thinking. Dreary यानी कि dull and poddling यानी कि walk heavily. So it's his own thinking process. And he also compared the person whom he knew and how they captured in this dangerous nest in yani ki trap, and of others who were still circling around the bed. Yani ki he thought about the others also who are nearly to be in a trap of this world desire. One dark evening, as he was trudging along the road, he caught sight of little grey cottage by the roadside. So one day when he was trudging yani ki walking on the road, suddenly he saw something, that little grey cottage by the roadside, and he knocked on the door to ask shelter for the night. As he hadn't any proper place to live, wherever he got something shelter like, he stayed there. So once when he found that grey cottage, he decided to stay there and he knocked the door for shelter. Nor was he refused. Instead of the straw faces which ordinarily met him, the owner, who was an old man without wife or child, was happy to get someone to talk to in his loneliness. When the person opened the door, the person was also happy. The owner of that cottage was also happy, and he was happy because he hadn't any wife or child, so he thought that it's happy time for him. He has someone to discuss his loneliness and share his loneliness. Immediately he put the pottage pot on the fire and gave him supper. यानी कि here the pottage pot यानी कि that vessel, fire यानी कि जैसे कि हम लोग कुछ खाना बनाने के लिए कोई vessel स्टव पे गैस पे रखते हैं, तो exactly यहाँ पे ही वही हुआ है. And gave him supper, supper यानी कि food to eat. Then he carved off such a big slice from his tobacco roll that it was enough both for the stranger's pipe and his own. Then carved off यानी कि to divide something into parts. So that owner of that cottage, what he did, he carved off such a big slice from his tobacco roll. So he was a tobacco addict person, and he thought that that roll was enough for the stranger's pipe and for his own. Finally, he got out an old pack of cards and played modules with his guest until bedtime. So he decided that let's play something till that bedtime, and he that modules यानी कि a game played with the cards. The old man was just generous with his confidences as with his pottage and tobacco. So the old man was kind enough that he said that both things with the strangers, who even the word stranger itself say that there is no connection between them. The guest was informed at once that in his days of prosperity, his host had been a crofter of Ramzo ironworks and had worked on the land. The owner of the cottage informed host यानी कि that owner informed him that once upon a time his days span in prosperity, and he was also crofter at Ramzo ironworks. As we know in the beginning of the story, the introduction of the lesson, the narrator says there is a story about the miles of iron. Now that he was no longer able to do any labor, it was his cow which supported him. So with the age, he hadn't enough strength to work in that iron mills. So finally, he has one cow which supports him, यानी कि which give livelihood to him. Yes, that Bozy was extraordinary. So here, Bozy यानी कि Latin word Bose used for a cow. It's a cow name here, Bozy. And the crofter यानी कि person who works on a rented farm. जैसे कि हम लोगों ने आगे डिस्कस किया है. Yes, that Bozy यानी कि name of the cow, extraordinary. She could give milk for the creamery every day, and the last month he had received all 30 kroner in payment. So the host informed the stranger that cow gives enough milk to him and also creamy, यानी कि a factory that produce cheese and dairy product. And even the last month, just due to that cow, that host यानी कि owner of that cottage got 30 kronor in payment. Kronor यानी कि currency of Sweden. The stranger must have seemed incredulous, for the old man got up and went to the window. Now that old man, whom informed about that 30 kronor he got from that cow, that incredulous यानी कि unbelievably, for the old man, the stranger thought that it's not possible, it's unbelievable that he got 30 kronor from just one cow. So that old man got up and went towards that window, took down a leather pouch which hung on a nail in the very window frame, and picked out 3 wrinkled 10 kronor bills. So finally, as a giving proof, the old man or the owner of that cottage just went towards that pouch where he put that 30 kronor. He showed him that wrinkled notes of 10 kronor, यानी कि 3 notes of 10 kronors, and that was a bill. This he held up before the eyes of his guests, nodding knowingly, and then stuffed them back into the pouch. So to give belief to that stranger, the old man showed him that bills of that payment which he got, and stuffed यानी कि to fill up with something and back into that pouch. वो जो बिल उन्होंने दिखाया था वो वापस उसमें पाउच में रख दिया. The next day both men got up in good season. Good season यानी कि good time. It's a good morning time for them. The crofter was in hurry to milk his cow, and the other man probably thought he should not stay in bed when the head of house had gotten up. So next morning, definitely, as that old man has his cow, so he was busy to milk from that cow, and the stranger, the guest also thought that it's not good manner that your host is doing something and you are just resting. Crofter, again crofter यानी कि the person who works in that rented farm. They left the cottage at the same time. The crofter locked the door and put the key in his pocket. The man with the Rattrap said goodbye and thank you, and thereupon each went his own way. So finally both got up and came outside, but the crofter and that old man locked the door, put the key in his pocket. The person with Rattrap, यानी कि rat trappers, he also said goodbye and thank you for the one night stand, and thereupon each went his their own way. But half an hour later, the rat trapper paddler stood again before the door. After 30 minutes, the rat trapper stood against the door of the older man. Paddler यानी कि seller. He did not try to get in. However, he only went up to the window, smashed a pen, stuck in his hand, and got hold of the pouch with the 30 kronor. Now, what happened? That rat trapper didn't try to unlock the door. He just moved towards the window where that 30 kronors pouch was there. He went there, and what did he do? He smashed the pen, smashed यानी कि badly broken, and stuck his hand inside and took that 30 kronor pouch. He took the money and thrust it into his own pocket. So उसने वो पैसे ले लिए और खुद के पॉकेट में रख दिए. And got hold on the then he hung the leather pouch very carefully back in its place and went away. He put that pouch as it is before he took it and just went away, यानी कि just leave that place. As he walked along with the money in his pocket, he felt quite pleased with his smartness. The rat trapper thought, wow, how smart I am, that I easily caught that money, and even the old man didn't know about that. Even it's the bad thing that the person who gave him shelter, he just caught all that money from that old man who hardly got money, rupees, from that cow milking. He realized, of course, that at first he dared not continue on the public highway, but must turn off the road into the woods. So, as a thief, he also knew that he could not continue with the public highway, because if someone catch him, definitely it's time for him to spend his time in jail. So, he started to took the way of woods, यानी कि jungle. During the first hours, this caused him no difficulty. Later in the day, it became worse, for it was a big and confusing forest which he had forgotten into. The rat trappers move towards the woods, यानी कि jungle, but after first hour, the difficulty will be started, and finally he was confused, that because the forest was completely confusing. He tried to be sure to walk in a definite direction, but the paths twisted back and forth so strangely. Twisted back and forth, यानी कि sometimes like in movies and serials, the person start a journey and again after few minutes or few hours as it is place. यानी कि there is no progress, like circle. They starts from one place and again at that, and their journey at that same place. He walked and walked without coming to an end of the wood, and finally he realized that he had only been walking around the same part of the forest. So he realized that he was not leading towards the outside of the forest, but he was moving in circle. All at once he recalled his thoughts about the world and the rat traps. Again his theory of rat trapping matched with this situation. The world is also rat trap, and finally person, the world catch that person as a trap of rat. Now his own turn had come, and he had let himself fooled by bait and had been caught. He thought that now, till the present condition, he thought about the different people, how they trap in this world desire. Now his own time to be trapped in this world. The whole forest with its trunks and branches, its thickets and fallen logs closed in upon him like an impenetrable prison from which he could never escape. He thought that all the things like that forest and trunks, branches, finally it's like a trapper for him, and this one is the trap from where it's not possible to him to be out of this. So thank you so much. The remaining lesson will be in part 2. Thank you.